Oh, okay. Hello and welcome back. Hello and welcome back to the Film Custodian Show. I am the Film Custodian, and I am back in the garage after a hard day's work. And it's my boss. Could you just don't tell anybody that I'm back here?
Oh, no, I wasn't going to.
Okay, good. All right. I don't know if we use that
Spoilers if you don't want to be spoiled.
No, you did it wrong. It's got to be like this. Okay, go. Spoilers! If you haven't watched the episodes yet, 1 through 9 of Andor, go watch the show and come right back here to the Filmist Universe channel and watch this show, The Film Custodian. And my boss that found me in here, and then he had to be in the video too.
Of course, because this is a good show.
All right, so Star Wars Andor, CASSIAN Andor is Andor, and it's great. So, what did you think of Star Wars Andor?
I think it's fantastic. Star Wars Andor.
That's the way. That's the way Luthen says it.
It's a great show.
Luthen, played by Skarsgård. I can't remember his first name. Oh, Alexander Skarsgård. No, that's the kid. Right? I can't remember his name. Stellan Skarsgård. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. No. So he's amazing. All right. So let's just break this all down. So we basically had the Mandalorian. We've had Boba Fett. We've had Obi-Wan. And this is vastly different. I don't even think it's in the same ballpark. I absolutely love this show. I think more or less when you're looking at the like the Mandalorian, it's the Saturday morning serials, right? So it's like your action adventure. We're having a lot of fun. And then Boba Fett was just kind of like a nice little side thing. But even, I mean, we really liked Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's great. Obi-Wan's a fantastic show.
But Andor kind of makes it a little bit like amateur hour.
Yeah, so...
in some capacity.
I mean, the basic difference between Andor and everything else is that Andor is... I think Andor is meant to be like an actual serial drama. You know, it's a true TV show. You could get rid of everything else, like literally everything else that was ever made in Star Wars ever, and Andor would still work, because it's not about Star Wars. It's not a rehash of other characters.
Yeah.
You don't need the universe. It could be completely independent of the universe, because at the end of the day, it's about just people who live in this galaxy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then the other thing that makes it different is that it really is just about the normal people. Andor's not a Jedi. He doesn't have superpowers. That's the thing. It's like there's no superheroes in this one. It's like, I know the Mandalorian's not a Jedi or whatever, but, it's like, those are like superhero stories.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, Mandalorian, it started at the beginning as, this is sort of the society at its, the bounty hunters and all that grunge. And then what happens after that is then you get into season 2, which I still think was great, but, it's the guest star, right? Here's Ahsoka, and then, there's Luke Skywalker. So it's always like the next thing, which was great. Look, the Ahsoka episode was one of my favorite episodes, but he's sidelined. The Mandalorian is sidelined. So I guess, but my point is that, you're bringing in all of the Jedi, and then I have the Darksaber, and, Grogu is with Luke now, and are you going to choose? Are you going to go with the Mandalorian, or are you going to, and that's all great. But, again, it's not about the normal people on the ground or whatever. And,
Luke Skywalker, Grogu, the Mandalorian.
My rent.
All these people have, superpowers. They all, they have special armor, or they're impossibly good shots. It's just...
Ooh, side thing.
It's just a little bit different kind of, it's a little bit different flavor.
Yeah, and actually, now that you bring up good shots, so the stormtroopers hit things in Andor.
Yeah, well, it was like something you said the other day. It's like, the stormtroopers are, they're meant to be like the elite. Like these are like the...
Yeah, absolutely.
These are like the best of the best. But, in these other TV shows like The Mandalorian,
just getting picked apart.
They're cannon fodder because...
Well, Boba Fett...
That's the purpose they serve.
Right. Boba Fett in his intro in season 2. Well, again, another special guest, which is fine, but still it's like, we got to keep bringing everybody in, keep bringing everybody in. And again, I guess my whole point with that was instead of just focusing and instead of trying to do something different, they can't resist to bring in Ahsoka, to bring in Boba Fett, and all these different things, and that's great.
Fine.
That's fine.
But
and he's
now
creating their own niche over there.
Yeah,
But well, hang on. So Boba just takes them all out, right? He's spinning around, shooting stuff out of his knee and all these different things, and
it's freaking awesome.
It's freaking awesome. But then you go to Andor, and it's like, oh, you don't want to piss off these guys, and then even the clones. So what was it, episode 3 or 4? In Andor, you show the clones, like in the flashback.
Oh, yes.
And they're like, get out of here. And they throw the rocks and it goes ping and hits him in the helmet. That was great. But then they turn around and they're going to kill everybody. Well, then they hang the guy. So, I mean, there's
a few hangings in this show.
It's pretty, it's the
dark.
Empire. The Empire is, I think, for the first time since what? Return of the Jedi, it's actually scary again.
Yeah, so in all the movies and all these other shows, it's always like, oh, the Empire, and,
right.
And you're a little kid and you're watching this and you're like, the Empire's cool. Because you never see...
They are not cool in Andor!
You never see what happens to just normal people in the galaxy. That's really, I guess that's the biggest thing. It's like,
you're right,
and then it's like, now we're just seeing whether it's elite, like this, senators and people at the top of the food chain, or people who just have shit jobs on some shit planet. It's like the Empire.
Okay.
The Empire is fucking brutal to live in, for everybody, almost everybody.
So you're really getting, and you're getting the whole I don't know, what do you want to call it, like the whole stretch of people from just the everyday Joe working, like it's always in a mine, right? So when it's like in Star Wars, if you're not a Jedi, a bounty hunter, a mercenary, or a Sith or something, or
if you're
senator,
a normal person, chances are
minor.
Well, no. If you're a normal person in Star Wars, chances are you work in a salvage capacity.
Oh yeah, that too. You're in a recycle depot,
or you
somewhere.
work in a mine.
You're working a mine.
You're working a mine.
So you have people from that, and then you have the juxtaposition to that, the people in the high class.
Yeah, you have the
senators,
insanely wealthy, and the plebs basically.
Okay.
The everyman.
You're right. That was obvious.
So now we've established what makes Andor different and perhaps better than literally anything that's come before it.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about next?
Well,
throw it out there.
So there's a few things that I wanted to bring up because, it's as a TV show, it's like there's things that you could just keep saying over and over again, like, oh, the acting's good. Yes, the acting's great.
No, I should say that really quick, though, because you know how in The Mandalorian, in Boba, any of the shows so far, there's some spotty acting, right? So there's...
Yeah, and that's, in a show like that, that's okay. It's like...
Yeah, but it comes off as like, it's...
How good acting can you possibly do when, it's basically, like I said, it's like it's a superhero movie.
Right, so the Mandalorian... Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, is great.
Yeah,
Grogu
awesome.
Obviously acts very well. And then you get Rosario Dawson is excellent as Ahsoka, and then, of course, Tamara Morrison comes in, and he's just doing the Boba thing, and he's great. But then you get episodes like The Gunslinger, which is the worst Mandalorian episode, I think, because you got the kid who's actually is a child of he's the son of a really good actor that was in Boardwalk Empire. I can't remember his name, but he sucks. So he's just, I'm a kid.
I'm gonna be a bounty hunter.
Right.
Really good bounty hunter.
And and then you get like,
it's like
the junk lady kind of annoys the hell out of.
It's supposed to be a little bit cheesy. I mean, like from A New Hope all the way till now, like A New Hope's full of cheesy.
Well, yeah, okay.
A New Hope is like one of those things where like it probably shouldn't have worked, but for some reason it did, and now here we are.
Well, like the famous story that Episode 4 was saved in editing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
Good editing can make bad acting a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
And not that the acting was bad, it's just...
And won the Academy Award for editing, too. It was like George Lucas...
But Harrison Ford was the one who said that you can write shit like this, but you can't just say it.
You can't say it. But he did it anyway.
And he was really good at it. Still is good at it.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was just... Sorry, that was a little side rant.
So, a couple things that... I mean, I made some notes, because otherwise I was going to forget everything. But we already talked to, in episode 7, I wanted to bring up the parallels between, the working class and, the Empire and the Senate. And, we already kind of covered that. But, one other thing that in episode 7 that came up is we get to see the Imperial Senate.
Yes.
The Imperial Senate. So, you know.
And how much of a farce it is.
Yeah, so it's like it was actually super fun to see, like, you know, in the prequel films, you know, the Republican Senate. It's like
yeah, it's great.
it's because it's like it's this freak show. You know, everybody is ridiculously rich, and you know, it's like it's just this big like soap opera going on all the time. You know, it's like
Well, everyone's paying attention too.
Yeah.
In the prequels.
Yeah, but when they have meetings,
Senate.
you know, everybody seems to be somewhat invested. You know, but like
Right.
you get to the Imperial Senate, and you know, the senator from Chandrilla, she's just standing there saying basically like, "Hey guys, I got this crazy idea, but like, what if we did our jobs?" And everybody's just ignoring her, and it's hilarious. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Mon Mothma.
Yeah, Mon Mothma. Yeah.
So,
But yeah, it's like that makes complete sense, you know, in a situation like that. You know, they're detached, lethargic, they're not interested, you know, they don't seem to be doing any work. She's the only one who seems to be interested in doing her job.
Well, yeah, and it is like a she wants to, well, that's why her story is compelling too. Is she actually is trying to do some good. She's trying to work. Everyone is trying to make it work within the Empire, right? Everyone's just trying to get along with it, do their job. She's trying to do the best that she possibly can, and then yeah, she goes there. No, like you said, no one else seems to care. Everyone is just. I mean, and even if you try to do something, right, you could be disappeared or whatever, and things just go from bad to worse.
Yeah.
Although the Imperial Senate and Coruscant in general has been very saturated now, so it's
that brings me to another point.
Okay, yeah.
So, one thing that they did in this show is for Coruscant, they've prominently featured brutalist architecture, which is an actual thing. So, brutalist architecture started in Great Britain. And it's like every school or even libraries, like school, government buildings, anything built like from, you know, 1940 to 1950. It's like, if you think about it, you've all seen it. It's the building that's just a big slab of concrete. The whole thing's concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's called brutalist architecture, and it's actually a very well, it's like a whole, like if you're into architecture, I'm not, but like, you know, some people like different kinds. It's like a whole class of architecture called brutalist architecture, and it just features just bare metal and bare concrete, and it's just meant to do the job and last forever. Like every college campus has, you know, this big concrete block of a building, but you know, and it's you know, if you look at it, in some ways, some of them can be really compelling because they're not always just plain. You know, they might have designs, but you know, it's just plain exposed concrete all the time. So it's just this gray drab. Just plain gray and drab, and then you know, it's like in the prequels when it's the Republic, it like everything's like almost, it looks like everything's made out of glass, you know, like everything's lit up, and it's lit up,
Coruscant's
and
like
there's
the
neon
center of the
lights
universe,
everywhere, and it's like it looks like there's a party going on all the time.
Right.
And then you get to Andor after the Empire takes over, and they just prominently feature all these concrete blocks for buildings, and I just thought that was genius.
And at this point, so. It takes place 5 years before Episode 4, so the Empire's been in control for 14 years. And then, but also that comes into play when you get to, well, something George Lucas said, right, which is, you know, I mean,
all the colors gone out of the galaxy.
All the colors, style's gone out of the galaxy.
Style's kind of gone out of the galaxy, and that's why everyone wears, you know, tunics.
Right, now you could think that was on purpose, but it also might just be because, well, you did do, you know, the original trilogy first, and then you went and did the prequels, and the prequels have all this advanced technology and stuff, which actually brings up another point. It's like technology has stopped, right? Everyone's back to analog. Everyone's using like an analog TV. Everything is like blurry. There's hardly used transmissions at all, you know, and I think like, do you think, I mean, maybe this is like just a minor detail that I'm thinking way too hard, I'm just nerding out about, but like, technology has stopped because it's like they don't care anymore. It's almost like it's being suppressed, where it's like everything is now very kind of baseline, like the architecture itself, right? Yeah. Everything's very boring and drab. The pathetic tie thing that Cyril wears, you know, it's just like, who cares, right? Because it's, I don't know. It's not really a...
Yeah, it's like, it's an aesthetic. It's the Empire, it's like, you know, You got your little hut over here, and you work in the mine, and as long as you don't cause trouble, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and then it fits right into the aesthetic of, like we just talked about, the original trilogy, so Tony Gilroy came in originally and saved Rogue One. He added a bunch of scenes and fixed it all up, and then you can see that, too, translate in this show that they get the look and feel of it correct. I think perhaps more than any other show, because that you're, like Obi-Wan was trying to connect prequels and original trilogy. Yeah, they succeeded for the most part, but I mean, this is just... I think also it's just the use of practical sets.
Yeah, that's another thing. Through this whole show so far, the world building that they do, it's like, if you look really close, you see all kinds of things that are like, oh yeah, that's like, it's not always like they made something special, but like the effort that they went to is clearly beyond what they do most of the time.
Yeah, I
mean,
like,
there's
right.
In the Solo movie, there's this one scene where when he's in that space station right before he joins the Empire, and he's got that hat on, and he like runs and hides behind some boxes. Those whatever boxes they had back there, it just looks like somebody took some styrofoam blocks and just kind of spray painted them real quick.
Yeah.
It's like in a lot of these big budget movies, you got these low effort looking sets, but everything, everywhere in Andor looks lived in. It looks believable. From Andor's grandma or mother, whoever she's supposed to be, she's got like
his adopted mom.
Yeah, she got her little rocking chair, and like he's got his bedroom in the back, and just it all looks completely believable.
Oh yeah, everything down from we see toilets again. I guess we saw a toilet in the Mandalorian, and that was a big deal. Just stuff that we don't see in the normal trilogy or whatever, because it doesn't come up. It's not necessarily necessary, but it's like you're seeing the everyday stuff. You're seeing coffee, what they call it, cough. You got cough or whatever, it just feels more, that just helps everything feel more lived in and more alive. You're seeing the Star Wars cereal, stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's just, little things like that go such a long way to make
100%.
To make the world, feel believable.
Right, they're not in front of a huge 8K.
Yeah, if there are scenes,
monitor.
If there is at any point where they were using any of that stuff, I can't tell.
I highly doubt
everything in this show. Looks to me like they had a set.
Well, a lot of them were real locations too, like the airport or whatever it was. Where it would be like an airport. Those are even the beach scene in Episode 7. That's a real beach.
Yeah.
I mean, these are real places that they're going to, that they actually scouted out and they went to, and that like you said, it goes a long way.
There is definitely social commentary in this show, but what's different is that this show is so well written. It's like it's done in a manner that's so tasteful. Like a lot of times when social commentary is done nowadays, they're grabbing you and saying like listen to our ideas.
Look how smart
you over the head with it. Look how
I went to college and I'm smart.
Look how intelligent we are. Look how progressive or whatever we are. But
it's none of it's slapping you in the face with politics.
But, Star Wars has always had social commentary.
Oh,
but it's always been like in its most basic form. These guys are good. These guys are evil.
Right, rebels versus evil empire. I mean,
the
it's
good guys.
pretty easy. That was the entire idea. That was what the main driver of Star Wars anyway. We're going to boil down religion into a basic concept, the Force. We're going to boil down everything. Good and evil. There is no gray areas.
Yeah, and then in the prequels...
So when you try to complicate it, it just doesn't work.
Let's bring a very complex political scene into the
and then
whole thing.
and then George does the exact opposite and brings in all this boring politics and stuff.
So then we get to Andor, and you have all those elements, and they find a way to put social commentary, a very relevant social commentary in, without being obnoxious about it, which is so nice. And then it's just like, that
you don't even notice because it's just telling a story.
And it's just these people are standing around and they're like, it's like, I'm worried about this imperial overreach. It's like people are going to suffer. And then some guy's like, well, if you follow the rules, you won't have to worry about anything. And that's like, that's as close as they ever get to beating you over the head with it. And I'm like, hey, it's a very organic conversation because the acting in the show is good. It's like,
the writing is good.
Never sounds forced. All the conversations are. I mean, the weakest performance most of the time is Cassian Andor's because
Yeah.
because he's sort of turned into the MacGuffin.
Yeah, okay, so that's an interesting point to bring up. So, and I said this in one of the earlier reviews. I only did, I think, 2 reviews of the show so far, and I've kind of lumped the episodes together just because I think it works better. But anyway, I mentioned episodes 1 through 6. Yeah, Andor is kind of the weakest link, where it's not even the acting, it's just the character development itself. It's the character itself.
Yeah.
He's just episode 1 through 3, which is a complete arc, beginning, middle, and end,
Yeah.
right? Where it's kind of an odd structure for TV show, but I kind of get why they did it. So they show his backstory, flashbacks as a kid. You don't really need that, but fine, it's cool. And then you kind of go into, I steal things and I sell things, and it's like, well, so he's just a rebel. He's just a rebellious guy who had a shitty childhood, and so he's a rebel without a cause, right? Along comes Luthien, and it's, but if you could do it all at once or whatever, if put all your energies towards something better.
Fight these bastards for real.
That's the other thing, too. They swear. Again, they did a little bit in episode 4, or A New Hope, and then they kind of stopped doing it. But anyway, so then you get to episode 6, and by the end of episode 6, when he betrays that one guy, he just straight up murders the guy because it was going to be him or me. I was like, there he is. Now he's a full-fledged character, I think. For me, anyway, he fully became Andor in that moment.
This is where the show, it kind of starts to play with your expectations, because that would have been the moment in the show where it's, it's like, I'm going to, devote myself to the cause. It's like...
Because he could have.
Yeah, but instead...
But then it turns out...
Instead it's like, no, actually, I'm going to go find some beach somewhere and just kind of hang out and get myself arrested again.
But also, the people he was with apparently were lying too, right? So everybody basically died except for the one woman. I can't remember the actress's name, but he's with the guy, right? He's with the guy. And, and they're hanging out, and he's just like, hey, we could split all this. He's like, what do you mean? Oh, just take it. He's like, but what about the cause? Whatever. Okay, what cause?
Right.
I'm my cause. Like, it's just about me. And so then... And then,
which
that's
is funny because you think he would have just shot Andor first.
He would have just shot Andor.
I'm just going to take all the money and go.
But I think that's also showing that, everybody has a past of being brutalized in one way or another by the Empire. Yeah. Well, actually, no, that was all a lie. He did lie about all that. He's, I don't have a brother.
I don't have a brother. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. But episode 6...
And then when he just straight up murdered the dude,
I was surprised. I did not expect that.
I was surprised too, but I was like...
That was great.
That was great.
But I didn't, because I didn't expect it, and it actually happened.
Because we didn't get what you would normally get, which is like this long scene with this goofy action scene with they would have horned in, normally you'd horn in some kind of weird fight scene or something, and
they would have scuffled.
Ends up being the hero in the end. Instead, he just murks the dude.
He just well, and that's the thing too. This is episode 6. This is the Eye. And everybody knows that, and that's the meteorite shower, which was freaking amazing, right?
Yeah.
So that whole episode, real quick, let's just talk about this. They found real sewers or a real bunker. Again, it's the real sets.
Yeah.
That was like the Dirty Dozen. That was a World War II movie. This is World War II in space if you're not doing the samurai, the Jedi and all that. You're doing World War II in space. And it was great. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the best. This whole show is better than.
Yeah.
You just have to look. You just have to look at the sequel trilogy for a second and be like, you guys suck. You wasted your time. The show that one episode beats that entire trilogy. It's crazy.
So what makes it so good though is it's what Star Wars was always meant to be, and it's character driven.
Yes,
but it's
100%.
not. It's not. See, that's why I said the weakest acting performance might be Andor, because he's sort of the MacGuffin. He's just the guy that we're following, and we have his story.
Vessel. Okay, so he's kind of like Mad Max at this point. We just follow him.
Yeah, kind of, or I
don't think exactly like that, but
no.
I kind of get what you're saying.
But the story centers around him because everything that the other characters are doing centers around him. And he's
absolutely. Yeah.
And then he has his story, of course, but his story is pretty simple. He just wants to... what does he want? He's a rebel without a cause.
He's a rebel without a cause.
I think he would have been happy to just hang on to some cash and stay on that beach. But, there's this, it hasn't really been addressed yet, but it was at the beginning of the show, he's supposedly trying to find his sister somewhere. Who,
that was a point I wanted to bring up.
and then when he goes back to his adopted mother, and she's just like,
don't look.
Just quit looking for her. It's like, oh shit, I forgot all about that. It's like that, like his story seems like they're gonna really take their time developing it. Like, I don't know how that's ever gonna keep coming into play, but I'm sure it'll be surprising and interesting.
Well, that's the thing too. Is that I thought of that too. Is that's the whole motivation. That's how you start off.
Yeah, but his story is just he's just trying to
make his way.
He's just trying to make his way, and then he gets the chance.
Yeah, there's the love triangle at the beginning with his past girlfriend.
And he gets a chance to make a bunch of money, and and then he just butt fumbles his way into Imperial penal colony. And
well, before we get to that, the plot line. There's a lot of plots going on, but there's not so much going on that you're overwhelmed, like some shows.
Yeah, it's like we're not really following a plot. We're following the characters.
Well, it's just again, it's like a proper show. It's like Game of Thrones, where you have all these different threads, and you're following everybody.
But yeah, you're right. We don't have these characters over here doing this, and these characters over there doing that. We do have, we have what's her name?
Well, he's the through line, though.
You got Cyril doing. Trying not to be miserable.
Do we want to take a side? All right, so we're talking about Andor. Let's talk about Cyril now.
Yeah. So.
Because this guy, speaking of unexpected turns, holy crap.
We got Deidre Miro, played by Denise Go, who just plays like
she's great.
Yeah,
she's an absolute treasure.
So we got the ISB, right?
It's great.
So
it's the best.
I read the X-Wing novels when I was a kid.
Is the ISB
of Star
in that?
Wars. I don't remember if that's what it was called.
Well, it's Imperial. It's Imperial
but
Security
it was the Imperial.
Bureau.
It was the Imperial Intelligence, and the leader of it. Was a woman. Ysanne. Yasani? Izard? This person. Anyway.
So
the female human.
Yeah.
Who served as the director of Imperial Intelligence during the Galactic Civil War. I'm pretty sure.
You know what? I bet they did take that from that inspiration.
Yeah, and I haven't really looked into it, but the more you dig around on the internet, there's lots of references to different things.
Well, that's what's so funny about.
But Deidre Miro is basically that character, Yasani Izard, who is just this completely in the books. She's this completely ruthless, torturing people and stuff.
Oh, okay. I didn't read those.
So I think that's got to be the inspiration for this character. But played by Denise Go, who like everybody else in this show is an Irish stage actor, does a brilliant job.
All right, so
Cyril.
Well, Mira, we finished with her, yeah.
Well, we could talk more about that.
Well, okay, so
so we'll talk about her first. Deidre Miro.
Well, we were talking about her. I mean, so let's just.
Okay.
We'll just continue from here.
Basically, the overall larger point that I was making is that everybody else's story somehow centers on Cassian Andor.
But that's good. I mean, he's the main guy. He's the main character.
Yeah, but
he's the through line.
Yeah, but it's not like in the movies where we're over here doing this and you're over here doing that. It's like.
Everyone's connected through that.
Everybody's doing different stuff, but it feels like everybody's kind of wrapped up in the same story. It doesn't feel you never feel like you're off on a tangent. The plot and the storyline is always very focused.
Yeah, there's no side quests like in Mandalorian.
You never feel like you're going on a side quest on this show.
It's very much like you need to recover this trinket.
Completely, seemingly unrelated groups of people.
Right.
So Deidre Miro, she's the workaholic, taking caffeine pills or whatever, hyper-focused career woman.
The rivalry. I've always wanted this show.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. We want to have, because there's so many good people. The backstabbing that could go on. I'm going to be decorated by the Emperor himself.
We've essentially got workplace drama.
That's great, but that's what you need, and they're in completely excellent. Again, the set design is impeccable, but. Because it's just these washed out walls. The Imperial symbol is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
a good chunk
great.
of her story just takes place in the same room.
It's great,
but it's great, and it's so you got her. She's always making sure her collar's on right, and she's got her tablet, laptop,
hair is up,
whatever it is.
Always on time.
Always on time. Doesn't like anyone wasting her time.
Nope.
She'll torture you if you waste her time.
Which we got to get to that scene because a lot of good things to say about that. But anyway, good torture.
But yeah, so it's just like, yeah, and it's like, clearly she's the villain, right?
But because you're following her,
but like you get
it.
You get like invested in her story. It's like, if I worked for the Empire, I would be ambitious like that too.
Yeah,
you
have to be. You have to stay on top.
It's like she's like an interesting character. It's like a lot of times in the movies, a lot of times, you got the villains, but the villains are always the most well liked. Like almost universally.
In general, yeah. Because they're more complicated.
Any superhero movie, like it's a lot easier to make a compelling villain than it is to make a compelling hero because villains come with flaws,
Yeah.
The villains tend to have a more interesting backstory. So,
yeah,
it's like you're following her and it's not like, oh, she's the evil Imperial officer.
She's not two-dimensional.
It's like, no, this is a woman who's trying to make a career out of working for the Empire,
Yeah.
She's a high-powered woman. And it's not like beating over your head like, here's the female character, the strong female character.
Yeah, not at all. It's never like that. Never once is there mentioned anything like that.
It's like just, she's there, this is what she does. And you don't have to make a big deal about her being the strong female character. That's just it comes off.
You have an interesting character.
I wouldn't mess with her either.
Well, because she has a character. Her whole character isn't, men suck. That's not her character.
Her character isn't, I'm a woman. Or I'm a powerful woman. It's
I'm this.
I work for the ISB.
I'm a human, right? And then the leader of the ISB is the guy who was basically the Frankenstein doctor in Game of Thrones, the little doctor guy, and he's just oh well, what's the thesis? He's he's the older guy.
Yeah.
And again,
he's great.
Well, and he was great in Game of Thrones too. But the thing too is that
I'm wondering where we would all be if we all did things like this.
Right.
Well, thanks for a lively session.
But he's also, you like it that he's on her side. Like he kind of, or is he? He wants her to succeed, but is that to his own end? Are we going to see some backstabbing? Like, why not let
it's like the one of the best parts is when
it's great
after he gives her what she wants. And which is basically
power.
He gives her
unlimited resources.
Gives her that other, I forget his name, but gives her the guy who kept trying to shut her up.
Right.
He gives her his job basically.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, watch your back.
That's what it was.
Because, it's like I'm certainly not gonna protect you from retaliation, but if you want all this power, you got to take what comes with it.
Exactly. You need to be willing to step up, type of thing.
But it's like, what could be more imperial than that? It's like, hey, you can have all this, but, if you screw it up, you're going to get your throat cut, basically, probably.
Yeah. So we've covered sort of the Empire angle and the Mira. We've covered that character.
Mira.
So
Deidre,
yeah.
Mira.
But these are just really good Star Wars names, too. And also, yeah, everybody, I know it's like you said, Irish actors, British actors, real actors. They're not worried about being famous. They're acting. They're actually good at it. And it helps with how the original Star Wars was, which was mostly British people, right?
It's like everybody was British. It's like
so you're back with that.
It's just the old trope, like, in any movie.
Oh, villains are British.
It's like, oh, yeah, the Romans are the villains in this movie, and they all have a British accent.
And they're all British. Or sword and sandal films.
It just doesn't matter. It's like, here's the villains. They all have a British accent because...
but it's great. Come on.
So let's just hire a bunch of Irish guys so that every time
real
actors. Get up! Move! Go here! Go there! It just fits,
Yeah, it's so good. So we got Andor, we got Mira. You want to talk about Mon Mothma a little bit and her story? It's kind of...
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, it'll take a little bit. We kind of talked about her already, but she represents the Senate side of things, the political side of things.
Yeah. So it's like...
She invites people over to her house to throw parties all the time. Everything is rich and extravagant. Her husband is dressed up like a samurai for some reason. Whatever, it's cool. Yeah. And then you bring in...
He's so lame.
He's so lame. And I think she even brings it up at one point. He's basically just a dead fish who's happy to just, whatever, man. Yeah. I'm rich, powerful, whatever. Yeah. And then you got the friend who has actually played... the detective in the Sherlock show with Cumberbatch, And he's really great. He's the guy. He's like all his hair is completely white. The friend, the banker guy, and he actually this was an Easter egg I read about. He's wearing his robe is actually an original rendering of a Jedi costume.
Okay.
So Ralph McQuarrie did all these drawings. Apparently that was original Jedi costume. So Tony Gilroy. Okay, yeah. If you ever watch this, what are you doing?
I'll be right back. It's fucking freezing in here.
So the friend, the banker dude, and she kind of brings him into the fold to get money, and there's all that there's all those awesome moments where it's just smile, put on your fake smile, everything's fine.
Just pretend like we're not plotting against the Empire.
It's basically like a family drama, and I'm there for it. But then also in the Senate, a detail I noticed in the last episode, I think episode 9, right at the end, you look down into the bowels of the Senate floor, and it's the Imperial symbol now. I thought that was I was like, oh, I don't know. It's just a really great moment just because, of course, you would have that. But I think the Emperor should never be actually in the show because why? I think it's much more imposing and threatening if you just hear about it all the time,
I mean, that's how it was in A New Hope. You got Darth Vader, this big villain.
The representation.
And very early on in the movie, they're like, they the Emperor.
The Empire has dissolved the council permanently.
Who's just waiting for his chance to get rid of those people anyway, probably.
Right. That's the thing is Palpatine patience is never ending because he lets things self-destruct until eventually the Senate is dissolved. This is 5 years before that happens. So it's still there, but you can clearly see no one gives a shit.
Yeah, you can see that's.
You can see the deterioration.
That's good that's good world building.
Yes, 100%.
As well. You have Mon Mothma, who's guys, our job is to take care of the people who elected us. And
sorry, actually, I don't think we'll hear this in the microphones.
Mon Mothma's like, guys, our first responsibility is to the people who elected us, and everybody's just like, screw that. Long live the Empire.
Yeah, they don't care.
We don't care. We'll do what the Emperor wants. And then eventually it's going to be, well, I'd like you to go away.
Well, then they actually the authority goes to the governors of that world directly, but I don't know. Whatever, that's a minor detail, but that's why the show is good, right? Mm-hmm. For Tony Gilroy saying like, oh, I'm not gonna do what is it, fan service? Yeah, you're a liar. You're doing fan service in the best way possible, though. I don't know if it's fan service actually to do continuity correctly. That's a different.
I don't think so. Like
that's a different thing. He's right.
Fan service is like.
Ahsoka shows up. That's fan service. Luke Skywalker shows up.
Yeah,
But it was good fan service because it served the story.
I have nothing against fan service as long as it's not obnoxious. Like obnoxious fan service would be like in the Hobbit when in the third movie they literally took a moment to be like, hey guys, do you remember Aragorn?
Oh yeah, at the end of Battle of the Five Armies.
Yeah,
that was the weakest one out of the trilogy.
That's obnoxious. Anyway. That's a sample of obnoxious fan service.
What is it? There was a ranger. He needs your help.
It's like when we stop everything to just be like, guys, you remember Aragorn?
And they go, roasted potatoes. Gimli.
Aragorn wouldn't be in this movie because he's smart. Viggo Mortensen didn't want to be in this movie. And
he actually, I believe he was actually invited, and he basically said, "Have you read the book?" Yeah, I mean, he's had over. We're getting off track here. We're not talking about.
That's what bad fan service looks like.
Yeah, but also, this is not the Rings of Power. That show is garbage. This is Andor. Okay, any chance I get.
Andor is not.
No, any chance I get to jab it in there because that show is absolute garbage. All right, so. Mon Mothma and all that going on. It's great. Now let's get to the serial killer in waiting. Cyril, whatever his name is.
His character.
Oh man, it's so good.
He might be my favorite character.
Well, let's start from the beginning. So he's on the original planet of well, I don't know. And actually, he's on a different planet because the security headquarters for his corporation that he represents is on a different planet.
Yeah.
He goes to the planet Andor is on. Can't remember the name of it, but fine.
But yeah, he might be my favorite character just because of the twists and turns his path is taking.
So basically, he starts off as the security officer who's like, he hears about, so in episode 1, at the very beginning, Andor murders 2 security guards, right? In kind of self-defense, but not really. And it comes up, and then you see Cyril, and he's basically just, well, this happened. And then his boss says, huh.
No, it didn't.
So what? Yeah. Sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
And, don't make it mundane.
Yeah. If we make a big deal about this, it's just gonna cause trouble.
We don't want the Empire poking around, do we?
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's interesting too, is that idea that we don't want the Empire because they're feared, because they're actually a force to be reckoned with. We don't want Empire's involvement. Yeah. We still have control here. We don't need the Empire screwing everything up.
Yeah. So Cyril is like, he's
too gung ho.
He is the epitome of. But the rules, guys, we got to follow the rules.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's like his whole character. Is like,
he's the guy that stops the D&D game and is like, that's not according to the rules.
No, we can't do it that way. Like, it's like, and it's funny because like one of the things I like about this show is like, it's not like, oh, this guy's obviously a bad guy, this guy's obviously a good guy. Like I totally get behind Cyril. It's like, yeah, 2 men were murdered, and we're just gonna sweep it under the rug and forget about it. No, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, he wants to get justice.
We're gonna enforce the law. We want justice. It's just the way he goes about doing it was probably a little foolhardy, but
then you get the one guy who was very briefly the police chief in the Batman, and he's just, oh, sir, he's got that voice like that. He's just, all right, sir.
That guy was hilarious.
Yeah, we'll get the men together. Oh. He's very much like, I never saw war. I get to see war now,
Sergeant reporting for duty, sir.
Oh, it was so good. And then you get the awkward moments where he's giving that really awkward speech. Cyril is. And then everything basically goes to hell, right? Andor escapes. Luthen escapes. And now Cyril goes home, and he has to put up with his mom.
So yeah, then the Empire shows up. The Empire shows up, and they're literally just like, yeah, you screwed up, and this is your fault, and now you're fired, and he has to go home to his mother, who hates him, or they have this bizarre but funny relationship.
She's very much like.
And then just for the next couple episodes, Cyril is just trying not to be miserable, and it's.
He has those clone trooper action figures, though. How could he be miserable?
It's just all he does is he's just sitting there staring at his cereal and not eating. You're like, no wonder this dude's so thin, because he's stuck with this weird lady who's like, oh, your uncle.
Yeah, she's the overbearing, micromanaging mother.
You don't have any prospects, do you?
Right.
It's like, oh, here's my disappointment of a son, got himself fired. What a surprise,
And then they're talking about, but that's the other thing, too, that makes this show human. It's like, you don't have time to have conversations like this. Like, you couldn't put this in one of the movies.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any sense. Like, but that's the thing with long-form storytelling. You can have a conversation over Star Wars serial where it's like, hey, our family, like, he must come. He went into the bowels of Coruscant a little bit. It's not like they're in the towers. So doesn't necessarily come from a rich family.
No,
I don't really get that idea.
He has to go home to, his, it's like
overbearing mother.
It's like, he got away from his overbearing mother, and he was, deputy security something on this planet. And
he was trying to be something.
And then he was just trying to uphold his own moral system, and he got burned for it. And you know what?
Yeah.
I feel that. You feel bad for him.
And then the ISB comes along, Mira comes along, they do an interrogation later on, because now Mira's starting to catch up, and he's like, this report is wrong. They're like, what are you talking about? This isn't how it happened. And then she basically says, I don't care, too bad.
But the important character building part of that scene is where he stands up and he's like, I didn't deserve this.
Yeah.
It's basically where he's like, this is bullshit. I got punished for trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And you feel that too. And in any other show or movie, that would have been the part where Deidre's like, well, how would you like a job?
Yeah. How would you like a job?
I 100%
that's what I was
thought
waiting
that
for.
was going to happen.
Yeah, I was like, this
Instead,
is when
they
he
do
joins
the best
the Empire.
thing possible. And she shows just a little bit of humanity when she says, well, good luck to you. now get out of here, basically.
Yeah, because
know.
she can't show too much emotion either because she
Yeah,
has
she
to be
shows
the
just a little
stoic.
bit of emotion. She's
you
like,
know.
oh, well, good luck to you, really. Like, because, somewhere deep down inside, she probably gets it, but then it's just like, okay, goodbye. Yeah.
And then in the last
And
episode,
you're just like, man, what's this poor guy gonna do? Besides sit in this cubicle farm and
oh
stare
yeah,
at screens
yeah.
all day.
So he does get a job. In the corporate system again.
Yeah.
There's the corporation stuff going down,
And it's
in a cubicle, and it's
But
like, oh my
fun.
god,
Like, I love the way they portray it though, because like you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself. Like Andor is in like a penal colony prison, but like he's like
Exactly.
He's in prison too.
He's in
basically.
prison too.
He's stuck with his horrible mother and in his cubicle farm.
right. This is episode 8.
know.
This is so episode 7 happens after. Okay, so in episode 6 you obviously have the heist, right?
Yeah.
Which shockwaves through the Empire, and now the Emperor's like, yeah, now I can crack down. Now I can start to just do nonsense, and all this legislation goes through. They talk about in episode 7. You see the effects immediately. They just pick Andor up off the street, and they're like, hey, you part of it? He's like, I'm a tourist. Yeah, you're a part of it. He's going to jail. They just get all these people to go to jail for no reason because they're just allowed to do that now. It's like no holds barred. Like, and then
we
there's
have this great moment where you
Right.
have this like, not really even a judge, just somebody who just assigns. Just
it's
somebody,
cartoonish. even.
she's just doing the job,
Yeah.
and you said, "I'm just a tourist," and you literally hear her say, "Take it up with the emperor."
Take it up with the Emperor because
I love that because
yeah,
it's like,
you can't do anything about
yeah,
that.
it's like that's the rules. I'm just doing my job.
And
too
that
bad for you.
And so he goes to prison, and then in juxtaposition, and then you have, well, not even, it's the same thing. Cyril's also in the prison, like you were talking about. But so now the Empire has these new powers. People are going to suffer. And then there's that scene with Luthen, the Skarsgård character, and then the woman he's with, I can't remember her. Doesn't she look like Leia?
He calls her Leia at one point. That's her name.
Well, no, it was Kira or something. It wasn't actually Leia, though.
I swear to God, he called
It
her
was
Leia.
very much like Leia. This woman could have played a young Leia. Now, obviously, it can't be because Leia is 10 years old here, or 14 actually. So don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I thought he called her Leia, and then I was like, wait, what?
Well, it's not Leia. It can't be Leia. It's just impossible. And Tony Gilroy has followed the continuity so well so far. You can't just make. I mean, she looks like she's in her 30s, so you can't just make her Leia. That would be stupid.
But she's like his secretary.
But anyway, bottom line, you go to the antique shop where the Seeds of Rebellion are happening, and it's great. And there's all the Easter eggs in there, like Starkiller's suit of armor, I guess, or whatever. But anyway, so he's in there. Mon Mothma visits, and she's like, oh, that was you? People are going to get hurt now. And he's just,
That's the plan.
I'm counting on it.
Yeah, that's what we want.
He's lighting the fires so that people get, because everybody is just sort of in a state of like, okay, I guess this is okay. Like he's trying to shake them out of it, rattle the cages.
State of lethargy.
Yeah, he's trying to rattle the cages.
That's what he said. It's like, it's like they've been choking us so slowly that we haven't noticed.
Right,
he says
right.
something to that effect at some point.
But that's powerful though.
It's like this is what we want. We want them to
Be
we want them to go over the top.
Yeah.
We want people to notice that they're being oppressed.
Yeah, and then Andor goes to prison, and you slowly find out through episode 9, that it's forever. There is no escape. Just skipping right ahead to episode 9.
Yeah.
But, so, well, hang on. So that was Cyril, and now we've kind of jumped ahead to this other stuff. I don't know, do we want to talk about Andy Serkis is in the show?
Yeah, so, I love this because it's like, they're setting up this this really...
Yeah, we need to talk about this prison stuff.
Almost seemingly... Not even overly complicated, just this very elaborate,
Oh, it's
prison
great.
plot. Like,
dude, this prison is insane.
The floors are lava.
You're never going to... Yeah!
The floors are lava, and you're never going to escape.
It's literally like red light, green light, red light, green light.
Yeah, so he finally gets into the... Like, and everywhere you go, you got to have your hands like this, except Andor's like always like touching his ears. just something I noticed.
And what we mean is the floor literally will shock you to death. Everyone in this prison is barefoot.
Yeah.
Except the guards who wear these special orange boots.
These gravity-looking.
Yeah, they look kind of like gravity
looking
boots. But it's still cool. Wait, like this, it's an insanely brutal prison.
And it's a great setup. And it's like the whole thing revolves around, you're just basically going to work yourself to death, and the faster you do it, the less times you're going to get your ass kicked.
But they make sure to feed you and get rest because they want healthy workers, essentially.
Right, yeah.
Slaves, basically.
But he finally gets where he's going. You know, it's all this buildup, and then Supreme Leader Snoke walks in.
It's not Snoke, obviously.
Yeah, just like...
For all the Snoke people, it's not Snoke, it's just Andy Serkis.
And then there's Andy Serkis giving, as always, an absolutely wonderful performance as a...
And that was spoiled for me, unfortunately.
Not me.
Before I saw the episode.
I was like, what's he doing here?
Yeah, I didn't say anything because I was like, I don't want to spoil that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but so Andy Serkis is, he's the
foreman. Basically.
He's the foreman, but he's like, everybody just shut up and do what you're told because my sentence is almost up, and if you fuck this up for me, I'm gonna, I'm not gonna be too happy about it. So he's basically just, he takes his job seriously.
So Andy Serkis is like, I'm almost done. I want to get out of here, and everybody is. You can tell that they thought about this prison because everybody. The writers.
Oh, yeah. Because
everybody is assigned to a table, and every day it's a competition. Everybody has to finish, everyone's trying to finish first as fast as you can, and it's an assembly line, basically. Yeah. And it's the same damn part every single time when it's, okay, up, down, this, that, okay, put that in, Yeah. And actually, some of these people are in Rogue One, turns out. Some of these people he's with at his table. And so I don't know if they're going to follow him. Like, eventually they're probably going to escape. Maybe in the next episode, which comes out tomorrow, as of this taping, which can't wait for. But so everyone's in competition. And the loser, the table that finishes last, gets shocked. So it's like the incentives are, you're really like, you need to do this. So it's like...
Yeah, it's basically, that's what I said. It's just the whole... They got these people, work yourself to death.
Yeah, more or less.
And if you don't,
work
you
yourself
get punished.
to death.
And then one guy does work himself to death.
Yeah, the one guy dies, and then what do they do?
Oh, they kill him.
They kill him, yeah. They euthanize him, so to speak. They literally get a drug out. It's like, well, whatever.
Just like, nah, he's had a stroke.
Yeah, nothing I can do about it.
Nothing we can do.
And they kill him, and then, of course, then they find out through...
They come to realize that nobody's ever escaping anyway.
Yeah, and then the whole time, Andor has been bugging Andy Serkis, like, hey, man, how many guards are there, this, that? And he's like, shut up! I'm going to bed, whatever. And then at the end, it's just like, after they realized that there was a scuffle or something on level 1, because everyone was like, wait a minute, this guy's not supposed to be here. They moved him from one level to another level. So no one's leaving. You're just recycled. You're just put into different levels. Nobody leaves until you're dead, right? So then he's like...
Something like that.
No, that's what it is. And so he's like, no one's getting out of here.
It's like, people might have left before, but I think like...
Well, now, as of now.
I think, yeah.
With the new
initiatives. This new legislation.
Legislation,
as soon as he gets there, everybody's like, hey, what do you know? Because they just like doubled our sentences all of a sudden.
Yeah. They're taking advantage of the crisis to clamp down. And also, maybe they're building parts for the Death Star. The Death Star is definitely in construction by now.
That's the point.
Whatever.
The point is they got
them
doing the same song and dance all day, every day for 12 hours. And if you don't do a good job, you get shocked at the end of the day for your troubles.
But you can eat all the food you want. All the synthesized food slop, that comes out. Yeah. And by the end of it, it's the end of episode 9, actually. Andor is just like, how many guards are there? And Andy is just like 12. Because he has to give it. He's like, all right, this is the only way I'm getting out. We got to break out.
Yeah. And that's poignant because it's like, he's willing to play along and play by the rules as long as they've got them thinking, someday you'll get out.
Yeah.
It's not until he realizes, actually, nobody's ever leaving.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, fine. I'll help you, we'll come up with some sort of escape plan.
Well, and I'm really curious on how they're going to do this too, because they're in the middle of water.
It's like what I've said, like all throughout this show, everything is so clever and so well written, and they, it always goes against your expectations. We never did finish talking about.
Did we skip ahead?
Cyril. Yeah, we never finished talking about Cyril. We skipped the best part.
Darn! All right, so
we're talking about how Cyril, 100% expect, when he's like, I was good at my job. I didn't deserve this.
Would you like to join
for somebody
the
to be like, oh, well, how would you like to join the Empire? But that's not, if you think about it, that's not realistic.
That's
They don't
very
just,
much
they don't just let you,
theatrical,
they don't just, nobody's going to let you right into the ISB or anything. It's like, so, that's when
So
she's
she
like,
pushes
good
him
luck,
away.
Good luck. And he goes back to his miserable cubicle.
Until
And then he starts stalking her.
until we go, it's one scene, she's walking to work, Cyril comes out of nowhere wearing basically this coat, which I thought was kind of funny. It even has like little tassels, and he's just, hang on. And she's just like, what are you doing? I can have you arrested. And he just becomes this like super intense, and he's just like, you gave me purpose again. Like, it's like you would fully expect this guy to become a serial killer in Star Wars, which would be interesting, actually.
And it was just really interesting because I kept thinking like, this guy's gonna play the
going
straight
off the-
arrow.
no, he's
straight
going off the
arrow,
rails.
The straight arrow good boy right till the end. But no, apparently these experiences have just driven him insane. It's
He's
like,
gone off the rails
like-
at this point.
so now he's stalking a supervisor at the ISB who could have him killed anytime she feels like it.
Also, weirdly, there's like,
It's like, I thought, are you stalking me?
but also, there's kind of a weird sexual tension going on between the two of them, even from like,
Yeah, just a
even
little
from like,
bit.
from like the start, and you
But it
kind
was
of want
funny
them.
because it's like I'm just wondering like what's he gonna do? Like,
Which, speaking of-
how is this going to continue? And then
Yeah,
that was the
really.
last thing I expected. It was like, really?
Yeah, again, I did not expect that at all. That it's just out of nowhere. She's like, "Are you stalking me?" And then he's like, "Well, he basically says he
He's
hangs
like,
out
well,
there.
I know you work here.
Yeah, like I know you work here. Like he named off a bunch of stuff. I know you work here. I think he even named off like the shifts. Maybe not. I don't know. I only saw that episode once, but
He's just like, I just never thought I would meet
Freaks her
somebody.
out.
It's like I didn't think it's something like, it's like when I saw how dedicated you were
to order in the
to
Empire.
order in the Empire. It's like he's like just simping for this poor lady who just wants to go to work.
But that's you kind of what I would like to see that go is actually them work together in like a very it's like
See now what I'm thinking is like the way this
Probably
would
not
play
gonna
out
happen, though.
the way that this would play out, you'd think would be like at some point she goes, I need something and none of these guys are helping me. Maybe this dumbass will.
yeah.
And so she kind of goes off script and it's like, hey, do you want to do something?
that's
do
not
me a
happening.
little bit favor. But who knows?
Who knows?
Whatever they're cooking up might be way more clever than that.
Yeah, more clever than them just joining up and
because
being,
everything that I expected to happen ends up not happening and something way better happens.
Yeah. Hey,
Expectation.
Ryan Johnson, if you ever watch this, which you probably won't, this is how you subvert expectations. Everything we've been talking about, where it's like you expect the beats to go one way and it goes another way. Not
It's like in a big budget movie, it's like, it's like, well, this is what you'd normally expect to happen. Instead, we're going to do this other less interesting thing because it's different.
Yeah, literally
that's
because
not
it's the
anywhere
exact
near as
opposite.
fun. In this show, it's like, this is what it's like, I would expect this to happen because that's what would happen in worse entertainment.
right. So take note. Take note, Ryan Johnson.
Yeah. That's just said, like, it would be a plot hole if it's like, oh, well, why don't you join the ISB? Because that's not realistic. It's like,
But it's also very much like
you
we
don't just
all
let some
expect that to
scrub.
happen.
It's like you don't just let some dude who was some low-level security and got bungled his way out of a job. It's like,
Yeah, I fully expected him to be in the Empire by now.
Yeah, it's like-
that's what I was thinking from the very beginning.
But the
no.
way they play it is so much better because it's like, imagine they bring him into that room and everybody would be like, well, what is he doing here? He's
Yeah.
the idiot who.
Yeah, who got this all going.
That's the doofus. Yeah. Yeah. So this prison thing though, it's like this. There's one thing that like if you think about it too hard, it's not even a plot hole. It's just something that people would say is a plot hole. So Andor's on this prison, right?
Yeah.
And this whole security bureau is searching really hard for this guy because they're trying to find, the buyer, and they like assign him a code name and everything.
Well, now they even know who Andor is because his face was there in the
it's
headquarters.
like they know who Andor is,
Yeah.
and he's in an Imperial prison, and you'd think that their systems would talk to each other,
Well,
but it's,
he used a different name.
yeah, but like they don't.
So is that it?
They don't have his picture on file. They don't have any kind of ID.
Well, and I think
it's-
actually-
and it's funny because it's like That's probably by design. It's like when people
Yeah.
get arrested and sent to this place,
They just disappear.
to the it's like when
They're nothing.
It's like when Andor is arguing with Andy Serkis. It's
Right.
like, it's like we're cheaper than droids and easier to replace.
He even says, "No one's listening."
Nobody cares.
So actually, that's not a plot hole because we just figured it out. They literally have no record because that's on purpose.
Yeah.
They're just picking up people to be, slaves.
The only time it's like, maybe if he died, they would come through like, oh shit, he was in one of our own facilities.
And maybe that'll come up. Maybe like she'll get Mira will get all pissed off like he was in a colony this entire time.
He was in our custody all this time.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's like, wow, there's such oversight.
But back to her now that we've covered those characters, and so there's this very, very, very clever, really well done, again, subverting expectations in a good way, torture scene. That is insanely awesome and also terrifying, and again shows why the Empire is so brutal and terrible without actually doing much. So they take Andor's old girlfriend. Can't remember her name, character's name or the actress's name, but they take her, and she's going to be questioned, right? Because by this time, Mira has shown up on that planet that I can't remember the name, Andor's planet that he was living on, where all the miners are at the very beginning. So they find her. They're following the trail. They get her. They take her into a room, and they actually put on a big show. There was that other guy. Can't remember his name, but he runs like a scrap joint too, right? Again, the scrap. So he runs the scrap place, who has the tower with the radio that contacts Luthen and whatnot. So they get him, they keep him overnight, and they do this whole thing where it's like they bring her in, and Mira's just like, well, "What are you doing? Well, get him out of here. Why do you keep him here?" To intimidate her right from the get-go. So they put her down, they tie her to a chair and all this, and of course, what you're expecting, they're just going to torture her and punch her probably, right? Punch her, cause her pain. Well, that's expected, and also how violent can you get? I don't know the exact rating of this is a more mature show, but it's also like I don't think you're ever going to get Star Wars rated R. This is probably the closest you've ever gotten. But so you can't really, so how do you do that? How do you avoid like all this violence and whatnot? Especially, you're sitting there and you're punching a woman and all that stuff. So instead of all of that, or instead of just giving her some kind of sedative or something, they're like, oh, well, let's just use audio waves. But that works. So they bring around, of course, the scientist guy, is this goof. Of course, he's like the perfect.
Dr. Gornson or something like
Yeah.
that. Like Dr. Gork.
He actually turns around and it's just like waves and everything.
That was the great introduction.
It was great.
He's in the corner just doing something, and she's like, Dr. Dr. Gornson.
I don't
or
remember
Gork or
his
something.
name either.
And
Yeah.
he's literally just like, hey.
So he goes on to explain through, the Empire was doing this genocide one time, and
He's just also very fascinated.
he's fascinated by this. He's completely unfazed. Yeah, this particular, I believe it's like an alien race, and so when they were killing all these aliens off for, I don't know, there was a rebellion or something, and then they had basically fire at will, right? Do whatever you want. So they killed them all, and they let off these screeches and stuff that apparently affect humans in a very negative way. So, he tells the story, and there was these officers, they were hiding underneath the steps, and they were quivering in fear. So we have all these recordings of these screams, and we've tweaked them and things and stuff like that. And now we torture people with them, and then puts them on, and then the audio goes silent. You just hear her breathing. You don't hear what's actually happening. You don't hear any of the screams, but she starts screaming. Ah! So what have you accomplished? You've accomplished, you've gotten around. You don't have to punch her. You're doing something clever. You've told that the Empire is, again, really brutal, and you're just killing people, but also these are new and inventive ways of torturing people. And also, we don't hear it, so we imagine it, right? It's that whole, you don't see the monster, you don't see the killer.
It's like, there's a term for this, and I can't remember what it is.
Well, the imagination is always worse.
But this is a great example of that.
Yeah.
It's like basically that's what it is.
What
It's
you're
like,
imagining.
When you build something up to be horrifying, what you can imagine will always be worse than anything you could ever come up with.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you don't show this horrible thing because whatever it is, it's never going to be, nothing you could ever show is ever going to be as horrible as what you can imagine in your own head. So, if they put the fancy headphones on and then you hear like, or something, then it's comical. It wouldn't matter
Who cares?
what you do.
Yeah, they can't.
Like, there's no noise you could dream up that would be scarier than whatever you could imagine. So that's part of what makes it effective.
But fortunately, then some famous guy called J.J. Abrams took that whole concept, created the mystery box, and has forever ruined filmmaking. But anyway, we're not getting into that. We're not talking about that.
So that's a good example of that. But on the other end of the it can be done poorly too. A bad example of that.
Super 8, the alien.
Is,
There's some alien with vagina face.
The big vagina face alien. Yeah, it's like the whole that's actually a good one because that whole movie centers around like, what on earth is this thing that
What's
has
in
these
car 45?
wild, incredible powers? And then they show
What's
it at
on the
the end,
island
and
of
then it's
Lost?
just, it's a generic gray alien with weird vagina.
Yeah, I mean, the whole sequel of Star Trek Into Darkness was bent on, is that Khan? Is Khan in the movie? That's all they do. Anyway, why are we talking? Screw them.
So a bad example of this.
That was a bad example, yes.
So an example of this done poorly would be the movie Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah.
So in the Kingdom of Heaven, Edward Norton plays the king, and he has leprosy, and it's apparently horrible and disfiguring, and so he wears this actually pretty neat-looking gold mask the whole movie.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, yeah.
But then, he dies partway through the movie, and Eva Green, who plays his sister, is looking at him in this coffin, and she looks at it, and, she's like, I gotta see what he looks like. And so she takes it off, and
you see her reaction.
She recoils in horror.
Yeah.
And then they make a horrible mistake, and they show what he looks like, and it's like it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered how well you did it or what you did. It just wasn't going to live up to your expectations. So it just looks kind of mummified, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's just got some like skin is kind of messy. And
It's like they should have just fade. After she went, oh, they should have just faded out, and then you're like, ah, shit, boy, he must have looked pretty bad, huh? How terrible.
Right, and they don't fall into that.
But I think in a lot of movies, they might have been. For all I know, they were planning on doing it that way, and then a producer was like, well, if you don't show it, people will complain, and they will because people are dumb.
Right. Why didn't you show us that? Well, because it's more effective to explain what she's going to hear. How she, explain what it is, but don't actually hear it. Or see it or whatever.
This is smartly written entertainment.
And very surprising for Star Wars from what we've seen, which has always gone with the most obvious way of doing things. Again, I love The Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett is fun, has some of the best Mandalorian episodes in it. Obi-Wan is good, but
Obi-Wan is very good.
But this is a different level, and I think because again, I don't know if you want to talk about tone really quickly.
Oh, tone. It is so important.
It is though.
It really is.
It really is because in Obi-Wan, one of the issues is that you're going up and down. Anything with Anakin and Obi-Wan is really tonally, centered. They know this is going to be serious, kind of horrifying sometimes. And then next thing you know, you got young Princess Leia hiding underneath an officer's coat, clearly, underneath the coat of Obi-Wan. And you're like, yeah, it was fun. It was a charming moment. But it was also like, so this is the Goonies now? Obi-Wan's really trying to hide. Leia, no, it's like, oh, Leia, get into my coat. Nobody will see me. That my stomach is, all the way out here. It's like, so tonally it goes up and down, and so it can hurt it. Whereas this had a clear direction from the beginning. Andor had clear direction, had a clear tone that they set from the very beginning. It's nighttime. It's pouring rain. Mm. The first place he goes is a brothel. To set up that Star Wars like you haven't seen it before. Yeah. She even comes up and says, "Are you alone?" Like you're not. They don't even. They don't even really try to hide it that much, but it's still subtle enough.
Yeah, it's like,
they had sex. They pan over. There's a bed over there. You wake up in the morning and have Star Wars coffee.
Because when he finds his way to the fancy beach planet, he's there with a woman too.
Yeah.
Andor's just trying to get. He's just trying to get laid.
He's fucking his way across the galaxy.
It's like he's just got a suitcase with some coins in it, and
maybe he'll find his sister eventually, because whatever. But point being, that's all mature, right?
yeah. So tone,
Right.
and
And
the tone of Andor is pretty dark.
It was the darkest we've seen a lot of Star Wars.
Sometimes very serious.
And that's just dark and serious.
It's dark and sometimes very
Yeah, but
serious.
it's poetry, so they rhyme.
It's
Actually,
poetry,
we didn't mention this. After the torture scene, what do?
Oh yeah, we got to do the
Yeah!
hand down and watch the guy walk
We see
away.
we see famously when Vader and the probe droid are in, or the torture droid, I guess, are inside Leia's cell. The door goes down, whoosh, and then you're down there. You pan down,
And
you
you
see the
follow
foot,
the guy's boots
you see
walk
the
off.
boots walk off, and I was like, that's fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
And they didn't have to do that.
didn't have
either
to do
because, we just built up this whole big harrowing torture scene.
It was a fun callback.
And then they end it with that, and I was just like, oh,
Well, right. That wasn't like I
talking
went.
of tone,
It wasn't
it was
like
like-
I went. Oh, whoa! But I
what?
you two. What? No, I was more just like, yeah. That's fun.
That's clever. It's pretty good.
It's fun, and also the music. The music done by the guy who did the music for Succession. I can't remember his name, but it's friggin' amazing. A lot of strings
Streams.
and a lot of interesting sort of 80 like synth.
Oh yeah, like when he goes to the beach, they got like
Yeah, it was
like
great.
this cool, and then
This is Star Wars
and then
Miami edition.
at the beginning of the episode, they played it again. It's like the music's getting more funky as we get along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the
That
music.
was one of those things where, like, at first I was like, that's kind of a weird choice, but then you're just kind of like, it's just pretty cool.
Like at the end of episode 3, it's like they just randomly. Oh no, it wasn't. It was like someone was playing drums in the
I remember
garage.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little off-putting. Like George Lucas originally said, I don't want disco because it's the 70s. I don't want synth. I want a classic symphony. But it's okay to do different things in the show, I think, and it doesn't hurt
absolutely.
it, and it makes it unique and
You
nuanced.
can't do the same thing every single time. 'Cause
Right.
It just gets boring.
Right. And that's why, real quick, have you seen Tales of the Jedi, the shorts?
No.
So that's a real good compliment to like Clone Wars and Rebels. It's just little short stories. The best ones are about Count Dooku, like his backstory. Hey, you should check them out. They're fun. But again, it's the same thing. Ahsoka's there, Anakin's there. It's the same thing over and over again. It was really good. But again, it's just the same characters and the same thing, same music. So just more to your point,
Yeah.
it's not, new stuff. Andor is brand new.
Yeah, so it's like when they talk about you can only, it's like you can only like reuse these storylines and characters so many times before everybody gets tired of it.
Well, and I think that's why a lot of people aren't watching this show, Star Wars fatigue. I think everyone's just fatigued with either they hate it or,
Well, see, you're always taking a risk with something like this, especially with a well-known commodity like Star Wars, because unfortunately, it's like the Marvel universe. It's like you come to it's always like the same cast of characters. It's like you got Iron Man and Captain America and the Hulk, and everybody, everybody's showing up in everybody else's movie. It's like that's just sort of what you expect to see. And then if you do something too different, there's always a risk that nobody's going to care or even notice. Like Star Wars is starting to become like that. It's like Darth Vader and Count Dooku and Ahsoka, especially Ahsoka. She shows up everywhere now.
Yeah, Dave Filoni can't help himself.
But then they come out with this Andor thing, and give them a little credit. They borrowed the main character from a spin-off movie, but really, I mean, it's kind of like its own. It's like if you're looking through, if you're like a super casual fan and you're flipping through, you're like, oh yeah, I recognize that, and then you get to Andor and you're like, huh, what's that?
Yeah.
But the problem is that like this is like the best stuff they've made ever,
And it's not mainstream, unfortunately.
Yeah, so like I said, so if you like Star Wars and you like just good, well done entertainment of any kind, even if you don't like Star Wars,
You don't have to like Star Wars to enjoy this.
yeah, it's like, I think I said this when we first started, like, if you took all of the movies and all of the shows and everything, and there was only just this show, it would still work. It would just be, an interesting sci-fi on it, you know. But I mean, yeah, it's like,
Well, okay, yeah, that's a good question because this was brought up after the first 3 or 4 episodes came out. A lot of people were like, "Well, if it didn't say that it was Star Wars, then it was would it just be a generic sci-fi, or was there still something special about it?"
I mean, like, you know, they get the tone, like the look of it. Like, yeah, of course it's going to be different, but
Yeah.
that's because they're not rehashing anything. Like every single Star Wars show, Star Wars movie, at some point you end up on Tatooine, right? At some point
Right.
you end up on Coruscant, right? It's especially Tatooine. It doesn't seem to matter what.
That's the center of the
What
universe.
like Tatooine's the center of the Star Wars universe.
It's a desert.
Everybody ends up there at some
Yeah.
point. But you know, in Andor, you know, you start on this totally different looking planet where they're doing mining, and then it's like it's just different everywhere you go. But you know, it's like there's plenty of familiarity. You know, you got the senators with their, you know, opulence, and you've got the Empire
Oh.
with. I mean, just because there's not stormtroopers in every other scene, you know, it doesn't mean you don't recognize, you know, the guys with hats and everything, and you know, Imperial officers. I mean, I think it's very recognizable.
Yeah, they hold.
But I'm a huge nerd.
Well, yeah, and I don't think it's fair. Like the first 3 episodes where there's an absence of Star Wars stuff, fine. But as soon as you get episode 4, you're now on Coruscant. Like it's in.
Yeah.
You can't. That's definitely Star Wars, and you can't just have that.
And I get it. And there's a lot more drama. There's a lot more story building going on, and there's a lot less people running around shooting guns and swinging lightsabers. So, you know,
and mowing
that's,
down 100 stormtroopers.
yeah, that's different too. But it's like it's no less interesting or effective, and if anything, it's more interesting.
Yeah, because it's all treated as real, as human, as
Yeah.
as real threats.
It's like these are like human interest stories. I mean, it's
Yeah, we're not just punching our way through all the stormtroopers are hardly even in it so far because they're reserved to be the army. You know.
Yeah.
You have the foot soldiers. You have security officers. You have, you know, just prison guards.
Yeah, well, it's not. You don't need that for this show. Like in a show like The Mandalorian, you can put helmets on everybody. It doesn't matter because they're just cannon fodder for the main characters. You know, it's
Which
like,
gets boring.
in this show, it's like everybody that shows up. You know, like all the Imperial officers. You know, every time a group of them shows up, they always have this back and forth banter. You know, and they just sound like they're at work. You know, Andor shows up on this prison planet, and they're like, you know, where's so-and-so? I don't know. He's like, sorry, I'm late. It's like, this was scheduled. You can't just be late. It's like, these guys just sound like they're at work. And it's great the way it's done.
Yeah. So
You know,
yeah,
they sound like they're at work in the most interesting possible way.
yeah. I mean, we're not watching people at
It's,
work.
it's not like, you know, just at work, the show, you know?
No, yeah.
If you've ever wanted to see what it's like to be at work in the Imperial prison facility, watch Andor.
There you go.
All
Yeah,
right.
I mean that's.
I think we covered just about
I
everything.
think we covered just about everything in the first. That's
If you are still with us at this point,
we failed.
we have failed.
Yeah, that's episode 1 through 9. We still got 4 left?
Yeah, this is just,
No, 3 left. Unfortunately, I wanted to keep going. They are going to start rolling cameras in season 2, and season 2 is going to be it, actually. But they announced that before season 1 came out. So you're going to get 12 more in the second season. And
I
I
mean,
think we're lucky to get that, honestly.
I
with-
just hope that this picks up and does well, and then they do more stuff like this, because this is honestly, you know, it's so refreshing. It's great, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's above and beyond, and it's not.
Like it's not that we don't absolutely love and enjoy the Mandalorian and Obi-Wan and all that stuff, but
Yeah, I'm looking forward to season
Yeah.
3 of The Mandalorian.
it's just that
It's going to Mandalore.
It's just that this is some of the best written material that I've ever seen in the Star Wars universe.
Thanks, Tony Gilroy and his brother. I think John Gilroy. I don't know. They did a lot of the. Tony was he did the like the Bourne stuff, which is already complicated and political, you know, already. So,
Yeah.
and I think it was his brother that did the Nighthawk, not Nighthawk,
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Nightmare.
The Jake Gyllenhaal one. What is that?
Oh, Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler.
Also a
Gosh.
good movie.
Yeah, that was one of the
Watch that.
that was
That's a
one of the
great movie.
Gilroys. But
It's all starting to
anyway.
make sense. These guys are just good at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite moments from the show so far? Just the little things.
Probably the torture scene. I was just surprised they went there. And they did it very cleverly, in a very clever way. And they didn't resort to just punching her in the face. Or they give her some truth serum because it's cliche.
Yeah. That's what it looked like they'd done to the guy who was already in there. It looked like they just punched him. So that was like what you were expecting.
Yeah, again, probably done on purpose to throw us off.
Yeah.
So, and you, like, what's your favorite moment? And then we'll wrap it up.
I don't know about favorite moment, but so like, there's that one scene after that kid who's got the manifesto and talks super fast about stuff, and
Yes.
he gets crushed by the trolley of money.
Yeah.
And the ship takes off. So they take him to this doctor guy, and he's got the 4 arms, and that was a funny moment because in real life I'm a procedural nurse, so I circulate. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh, this guy's got 4 arms. That's funny. And he's not wearing a glove on a single one of them. So I'm watching this and I'm like, bruh, what are you doing? Put some gloves on. You need at least 4.
And actually, he's an alien. The doctor is an alien, and that's something people have brought up. Like, where are all the aliens in Andor?
Yeah, that is.
There actually is not a lot of
like,
aliens.
you don't see really any, like at all.
They're
like,
at-
and
well-
you could even argue that guy wasn't, was like a human with just an extra set of arms.
Yeah, I mean, they're at
know.
the bar, they're at the beach, but there's no aliens at the prison. There's no aliens in the Empire. So, I mean, is it like maybe they're saving money on makeup?
That's true to the. That's true to the aesthetic, though. Like, you never see aliens.
Well, that's
in the
true,
Empire.
unless you're in the freak joint, right? Unless
Yeah.
you're in the bar and you get all the different aliens and races from, and they're all at the bar.
And that, like that might be part of the story too. Like the Empire,
Yeah.
doesn't like aliens.
They don't like
maybe.
aliens.
They don't like aliens.
I mean,
They're-
there's
they're
Admiral
racist.
Admiral Thrawn is a
They're xenophobic.
well, yeah. I mean,
They don't hire them. They don't like them. They just stay home.
I mean,
stay
maybe
on your own planet.
Yeah, maybe they don't. I mean, it would
Well,
be
I
hard
mean-
to get a Twi'lek in the Stormtrooper
but like
outfit.
I've read, when we were kids, we had all those like Star Wars locations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's said periodically through material that no, the Empire does not like aliens, and they hardly like droids. To them, they're all low level.
Yeah, I mean
but-
that could be a part of it too that you're seeing.
Yeah,
but
so
I
like
don't know, but that's
maybe
not,
later on he'll,
Yeah.
whenever Andor finally gets hooked up with like the proper rebellion, maybe it'll be like, oh shit, here's where all the aliens are.
Yeah, I mean we
They've-
run into
They've all been oppressed.
we run into what's
They're all
that one
being
guy?
used as slave labor.
What's that one guy from Onderon? The
Which one?
More Lies.
Oh,
Yeah,
Saul Guerrero.
Saul Guerrero shows up.
Yeah, he shows up.
Who's been a character since he was invented in the Clone Wars and then came into real life in Rogue One through James Whittaker. Or whatever. It's not. Sorry, that's not his name, but whatever. And so he shows up. Skarsgård goes to him, and you can see the disagreements. He's just like, "I work alone. We're violent."
No sale today. Be on your way now.
Yeah, maybe they'll all.
They all lost. And I actually thought that was a pretty interesting, when he showed up, that was really interesting. Like, you get like different flavors of, idealism in this galaxy. Like, you've got these people who are true to, the cause, and their cause is to defeat the Empire and bring the New Republic. And then you got way on the other end of that same spectrum, you got Saul Guerrero, who's clearly an extremist.
Yeah,
He's basically an anarchist.
Yeah, it's just violence and destruction, and with no end goal, really. It's more like just revenge type of thing.
Yeah, and then you got like, then like even on the Imperial side, you got Midra, who's like, just like anything for the, it's like she's the same way. It's like anything for the cause, but the cause is, Imperial rule. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting when you bring Saul Guerrero in, and it's like, you got just different versions of this same kind of thing. So it's like, in traditional Star Wars, it's like, these guys are good and these guys are bad. These people are clearly evil and they enjoy being evil. But, you got, like, Midra, like, she tortures people. So, maybe she does enjoy being evil. But, like, she doesn't come off that way. She comes off like she just takes her job very seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not... So it's like... And then you got Cyril. Like, to me, Cyril's not even a villain. Like, he was just trying to do his job the way he thought was... the way he thought was right. And he got burned for it, which I feel that.
Yeah, maybe he becomes more of a villain later on. Who knows? So, all right. So, in conclusion, we recommend this show.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, no, seriously, go and watch it right now if you're a Star Wars fan. All right. Well, anyway, if you enjoyed that video, please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Check out the other videos. I talk about House of the Dragon. I talk about Reacher and all kinds of other stuff. So check it out. The pictures should be coming up now, right over our faces. See you in the next one.
Welcome
Yo,
to
what's
the
up?
Film
What's up?
Custodian.
What's up,
If
you-
you like what we do,
You
smash
do-
that like button,
Smash the like-
subscribe.
Smash it! Smash it!